Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and
This is Mickey B. Fresh. And today we're going to dive into a couple different topics. We're going to go over the Jeremy Hogan video talking about a potential settlement on the near horizon here. We're going to talk about the new Q2 2021 quarterly report by Ripple Insights. We're also going to dive into a SBI ODL screenshot from their recent PDF explaining how ODL is working. And then we also got some new clips from Polysign CEO Jack McDonald talking about Polysign's second blockchain, DeFi, non-custodial wallets, and a new real estate tokenization product geared towards retail and a proof of concept in the UK. And finally, we're going to touch on the Flare team, who has expanded now to 21 members, and a future upcoming interview with Hugo, myself, and Patty. So let's kick it off here. What happened today with Jeremy Hogan and this case, Patty?
yep. So if you guys haven't seen it, we'll link it in the description too. If you don't follow Hogan, but he put out a video with him speculating on this for sure. But I think he has some interesting points behind his speculation. And basically, we saw how Roisman and Parse came out and kind of said there's no clarity for the market. The SEC's been basically unwilling to do that. And we know that both Larson and Garlinghouse went and filed, that is evidence to the judge. Ripple quickly followed. Then the SEC came back arguing against their filings. We saw Larson and Garlinghouse's lawyers reply to that, but we have not seen Ripple reply to the SEC's reply. And that's something that Hogan thought is a little odd. And that was supposed to, I think it was on the 23rd when that came out. So it's been about 6 or 7 days now, something like that. And then also, he said that he doesn't think the Hinman deposition actually took place on Monday for a couple reasons. One was that the SEC was saying anything that wasn't public is privileged in Hinman's case. Ripple was saying nothing should be privileged. So there was a huge gap. He said with lawyers, he can't foresee a situation where everything just went smoothly. Ripple's not objecting to him not answering any questions, and he would have expected them to already file that to the judge saying, hey, Hinman didn't answer this. Will you order him to answer this? Because they claim privilege. We haven't seen that. It's been a few days since. And he went as far as to say that, if by the end of the day, Friday, Ripple doesn't have anything filed in any of those two regards, that he thinks a settlement is likely on the table. And the reason for them not doing that is because they don't really need to file anything if they're going to have a settlement. Why do that work? So I find that really interesting. Definitely check out his video. The perspective's pretty good, I would say, on it. If you're going to speculate settlement, I think he has some really solid points that, unless you're a lawyer, you're probably not going to pick up on. It has to do with like the timeline of how things are supposed to happen and all that.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I got to thank, because shout out to Jeremy Hogan, having somebody like that in our community is just awesome. Because of things like this, he's able to pick out that Ripple didn't file that back. Now we're starting to see, possible settlement. And I've been one who recently haven't thought that we are going to have a settlement, and it's probably going to go to summary judgment. We're at this point. But I think with Hester Pierce and Elon Roisman's comments publicly and the deposition of Hinman, I think we possibly could have a settlement. Now, what does a settlement mean for XRP and the future here, Patty? I mean, there's a couple different things that could happen. I mean, does XRP's price explode to, 3-4 digits, or what do you expect to happen here, Patty?
I'm going to say a hard no on that. I would even say I don't think it would go to $10 just like in the blink of an eye. I think we would see a pretty significant pump, like at least 50 to 100% in a day, if you were to ask me. And on that, we're not financial advisors, but the general crypto market is still kind of in a downtrend. It's really 50-50 on which way it's going to go for me at this point. We're seeing a little signs of life right now, but is that just little signs of life before farther capitulation? I'm not sure. So I think some of that could cap how high XRP would theoretically go. It also, is going to depend on what is the extent of this settlement, like what is said. Does Ripple admit any wrongdoing? I can't imagine that they do, unless it was, maybe like in 2013 or 14, something like that, which would be pretty much inconsequential to what we need to happen anyways. All we need is XRP to not be a security anymore, pretty much. And for Ripple, they just want to still be able to deal in XRP, utilize the escrow, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it would definitely be good. Is it enough to jolt the whole market? Possibly. I don't know. It just depends what comes through in that settlement. And if it's stuff that future projects are definitely going to be able to use in cases the SEC may bring against them, that may signal to the market, hey, the regulatory risk is not as severe as maybe people were thinking based on this case being dropped.
Yeah, that's well said. I agree totally on that. And I think this could jolt the market potentially if in the settlement there you get XRP, you get regulatory clarity where it's not a security right now. Ripple could utilize XRP in the escrow and future. I think XRP is a big enough asset, has a big enough hold in the market where it can pull the rest of the market up with it potentially if in the settlement has everything that we think it's going to have. Now going forward, I don't think the speculative nature is going to be enough to pull it to those extreme heights. Like I said, I don't see 34 digits. That's not happening. Not from just the case settlement. But I will say over the next year, with the new use cases that will come from XRP and the development around the XRP ledger and all of Ripple Nets and Ripple X's and their partners, Polysign, so much more demand for XRP will come. And it's been so undervalued for these last couple of years. It really hasn't participated like the rest of the crypto market has in this recent little bull run here. Well, not little, but bull run. XRP really hasn't done its thing. So now it's so undervalued and compressed down that I think there's just going to be a wave for the next year and use case and utility, but demand for the asset in corporates, in DeFi, on Flare, with the ODL opening up is going to be huge. So let's move now into the Q2. Go ahead.
I was going to add one
something?
more thing that I just want to add to that. So, if XRP gets clarity and, we do see like speculative price jumps, well, things like that attract other people to start wanting to work with the project. The more money and value that's in that project, the more money a business could possibly extract from it. So, like, that's a big thing with Ethereum. A lot of DeFi going on there. Most of the DeFi money is on Ethereum, and we see how they just had an absolute explosion of projects. So I just didn't want that to be lost on anybody that, price can drive more capital investment, people building additional infrastructure and things like that.
Absolutely. And speculation will always be around.
Yes.
Like utility and demand will be there, but speculation is going to continue and it's healthy. That's why the market, XRP is always going to have some volatility to it. And that's how it has to continue to gaining value. It can't just be placed somewhere at some amount and it doesn't need to be super stable. So we want volatility for XRP. You see that ODL, it doesn't need to be stable to be used in ODL. They've explained this multiple times. And one thing I think that in Ashish Burla's interview last night with Tony from Think and Crypto, they really pushed on this tokenization and DeFi and NFTs. Like that's their next. They said we're moving from payments and we're setting up the infrastructure for all our hundreds of partners to be able to integrate digital assets and crypto. So they're already, that's the one thing they compared it to Cisco back in the 1980s, where they had the routers and they had all the hardware in there already, basically, to just connect to the internet when that came along. And Ripple's positioning themselves in the same way, where they already have the infrastructure. Now, once they give them this digital wallet, that's it. That's the final piece right there. Now they could connect to all type of security tokens, tokenization, crypto, the XRP ledger, exchanges. And now with Polysign coming along, I mean, they have everything there for you. So if you want to build anything to integrate with crypto, digital assets, payment gateways, wallets, Ripple's already there with their customers. So that's something that I think we haven't seen any real value come from that, but I think that will get a boost in the future with regulatory clarity. And as digital assets are accepted in mass adoption, and we just saw PayPal come out, they want to create a super wallet app. I mean, this is huge news. That's basically mass adoption, what they're trying to do there. And Ripple's already positioned now to be able to offer that to any customer that they have. So let's move on to this Q2 report that just came out today and was released by Ripple Insights. The sales were about the same as last month. Nothing really spectacular on that front to cover, but they did go hard with tokenization again, Patty, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that was kind of a big thing that they touched on was tokenization and NFTs. So they highlighted the fact that with the issued currency feature on the XRP ledger, that it's had over 5,000 tokens issued since its inception, which is pretty crazy. And they also highlight that the XRP ledger was designed with a decentralized exchange and characteristics to handle all types of currencies or assets efficiently, sustainably, and at low cost. So like here we're going back, this stuff on chain, which is like, issuing currencies, trust lines, the decks, all those kind of stuff. And also, you brought up the Ashish Burla interview. Whenever Tony was asking about like, certain traditional financial products or ETFs, like Ashish kept saying that what he cares about is like open source, permissionless decentralized projects. Like that's what he's most excited about. And I think that just highlights what everybody from the Ripple team, the Polysign team seems to be preaching at this point.
Yeah, no, that's a great point you bring up there. And I think that's important to see that we're moving like an ETF for XRP really doesn't do much. It just ties up the asset, creates more fees. I mean, granted, it would be probably great for the price, but it's not moving the asset class into the direction we want it to be. We want it to move into decentralized finance, more non-custodial wallets. And those non-custodial wallets will get better over time. But that's where he sees it. It's being able to in control of your own finance. So that's why, when we say if you're keeping a decentralized asset on a centralized exchange, you're trusting that exchange. We have the ability now with new technologies to be able to custody ourselves. So I think, we should move towards that direction. That's not financial advice, not any type of tax advice, but I do think that we should move in that direction. And these wallets will get better non-custodial. As multi-party computation comes along, we no longer will need to custody our private keys. Those will be removed from the picture. So that's what's coming in the future, what to expect. And now let's move in here, Patty, to the slide from SBI recent PDF about their ODL moving into the Philippines from SBI VC.
Awesome. I got that up if you want to go ahead.
All right, sure. So this slide is really interesting because it shows how SBI Remit has an account at CoinsPH with a hot wallet. So it shows how the domestic side of Japan has to still have an account with the exchange in the Philippines. Now, these are two regulated corridors. Now, Japan, we know, has their regulatory clarity. SBI is good central bank there, and the regulator. Same goes for the Philippines. I believe all exchanges there need to get clarity from the central banks. So that corridor is locked and loaded. So that's going to definitely ramp up. And now they're planning to expand from here. But this graphic was posted, in a recent PDF. So they basically telegraphed that this was coming.
Yep. They like straight up say using XRP as a bridge currency, we can see there's no exchange in the first mile. So this new ODL 2.0 model.
2.0.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where the sender, goes and sends a remittance instruction into like the ODL platform. Their hot wallet will send XRP over to a hot wallet in the name of SBI Remit at like CoinsPH, like Mickey was saying, and then that gets exchanged into, I want to say, I don't know what the Philippines currency
Peso.
is called. Is it peso too?
I think it's Philippine peso.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. And yeah, so that gets sent to the recipient customer. So, you're cutting out some of the tough like side of things on the front end, only utilizing one exchange. You would think once you can get the XRP into the native country that it's going to and utilize an exchange that's in that country to deliver like the final, fiat payment, that's very helpful. So,
It is. And I think so now they already have the XRP here. So SBI and all their subsidiaries, they probably have a good amount of XRP themselves. And they could also be one of these lenders in the future, just like Ripple's lending XRP out. I'm sure SBI will do the same with, in Southeast Asia, lending out XRP. They already have it. So they lend it to SBI Remit, which is their subsidiary anyway. And they could start shooting payments out now to the Philippines. They don't need to do the exchange between Japanese yen to XRP because they already have the XRP. And this is moving to that holy grail where the banks and the entities actually hold XRP. And Ripple's line of credit is, doesn't get enough coverage as it should, in my opinion, because what it's doing is putting XRP and the wallet in the hands of all these payment providers, money service providers, institutions, banks, custodians, and just giving it to them. Here you go. We'll lend it to you. Pay us when you get a chance. And Ripple has that capability because of the escrow and the seigniorage. And this is what they're fighting for in the case, is to be able to hold on to this ability. And I think that's really important here. It's not just about XRP getting clarity. It's about having this ability to lend as a credit facility.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing, Mickey, I wanted to touch on in relation to ODL from this market report that I just found interesting was they said a quarter of Ripple's current customers are based in Europe, and year to date, European ODL transactions grew by 250% in comparison to 2020. And that made up over 40% of all ODL transactions year to date. So, I mean, they're really
Wow.
growing in multiple regions, pretty much just not North America because the case. But, they're starting to expand in South America, in Asia, Europe, we can see they're expanding. So, they're kind of building all around, and then I'm sure they'll start flooding in once, we kind of get that final clarity that's needed here.
So I guess there's official clarity in Europe for them to be growing at that rate. I mean, granted, there's a lot of countries in Europe,
Yeah.
but in the UK and Europe are two big corridors that now they have clarity. If they're expanding, there's clarity. It's not just a test. So growing at that rate is very exciting. And now with Japanese corridor live, this is something, Crypto Hetty said she's been waiting years for this. It is true. It's that SBI VC is kind of the cornerstone, the foundation of that corridor right there. I mean, you have a bank grade institutional exchange operating all the liquidity out of that corridor, basically for XRP.
Yep.
So
And
let's move.
I
Go
was going to
ahead.
say one last thing that's just, kind of amazing to me. One of the big news stories of the year for crypto was the fact that Bitcoin is, going to be legal tender in El Salvador. Now, I don't even know if that's being used yet, to what extent, but it's just amazing to me that for multiple years now, we've seen XRP ODL continue to grow and grow and grow, and, nobody gives a damn outside of our community. It's just kind of
Mhm.
amazing to me, and I think it kind of just shows maybe the displacement in knowledge in the market. So
Well, that's true. That's what with that undervaluedness right now.
yeah,
What's going on
exactly.
is that the market's not really taking into account all this utility that XRP's already had, and it's what it's going to have in the future. It's not pricing that in. So that's what I'm kind of saying. It's too undervalued at the moment. If it's not even pricing in the current utility or the future utility, which it should be pricing in, the market is just irrational. And it doesn't always act rational, but it will catch up at some point here. And once we get clarity, I think we will see that. So let's move in to the next segment of our video right now, which is going to be really exciting because once again, we have another podcast from Polysign CEO Jack McDonald talking about DeFi, second Polysign blockchain. So let's get into it before I get too excited.
Awesome. Well, I'll start us off with the first video, Mickey, and then we can go with that. So
we're in the process of going back to New York Department of Financial Services to broaden our mandate to support some of the other DeFi applications that exist out there. So it will be an evolving charter and an evolving relationship with the New York Department of Financial Services to broaden our mandate to support some of the other DeFi applications that exist out there. So it will be an evolving charter and an evolving relationship with the regulators. They want to make sure that we are thoughtful in terms of our plan to add new services or new assets. And so there will be an ongoing conversation with them as we evolve into this. Ultimately, we could broaden the charter, excuse me, to support fiat currency as well. Our current charter, part of that limited purpose moniker is that we do not custody cash or fiat currency for our customers. We do that through partnerships with other deposit-taking banks.
cool. So that's the first one where Jack McDonald is saying that in the future they could possibly handle cash deposits. Right now they just have a limited purpose behind their license, which is dealing with all the crypto and DeFi and tokenization related things. Also, an interesting thing he mentions in this interview, Mickey, is the fact that they went with this New York charter because it's one of the hardest ones to get, and they were seeing that if you went to maybe a state like Wyoming or Nevada to get licensed, if you came back to New York to try and get a bit license, a lot of those companies weren't getting it. So they felt like they needed to go through the most rigorous steps there.
So Jack also says here that they're going back to the New York regulator to try to expand their mandate for DeFi applications. Wow, what a surprise. Once again, Jack McDonald, CEO of Polysign, talking about expanding DeFi applications, something you would have never imagined 2-3 years ago. So I just think that's amazing that they recognize that DeFi is so fast moving and it's going to consume a lot of the traditional markets, and it's pretty much the biggest thing in crypto now that's developing. You're building a financial marketplace on the blockchain, and that's just exciting. And that they see that, and then they're integrating that, and they want to bring it in for retail and institutional. So let's jump into this next video here, quick, Patty.
All right, here we go.
So designed to be very agile. We're not a high frequency trading solution. We are developing some hot wallet solutions that could be a non-custodial sort of application. And as I referenced earlier, we're also building out on a separate blockchain, a settlement layer. But our core custody, you can think of as really better than cold storage. That's the way it's been treated, by the regulators and insurers. And we do have a network component. So in the legacy definition of cold storage, we are not, but we're not the only ones in that regard either. And we think having a network component is actually advantageous in terms of being able to move the asset more fluidly.
Yeah, so they say that they have a better than cold storage custody solution, which I think is pretty cool. And they are looking to offer non-custodial hot wallets. So I'll let you touch on that a little more, Mickey.
Sure. So when they say better than cold storage, what they're meaning is they remove the private key. They split it up, and that's what multi-party computation is. It shards basically the private key. So no private key actually exists. So you don't need to store the private key in cold storage because there is no private key. It's sharded to multiple different entities, and then it's brought together to sign the transaction. So this, will start in the institutional, and there's Copper uses this, and I believe Curve Custodian. So there's a few right now that are doing Anchorage might, but really Polysign is at the forefront here, what they're building. And now they're saying non-custodial hot wallet. I mean, if you would have said to me, Polysign's building a non-custodial hot wallet, I would have said, yeah, okay. But now, hey, that's what he said. This is the CEO. So I think we need to really, keep an eye on Polysign here, because this is going to affect retail. And now listen, in these next two clips here, he really gets into basically how you as a retail is going to be affected. This is not going to be just all about the JP Morgans and the banks institutions. Granted, they are focusing on them and they are building infrastructure for them, but it will affect you and me, and Patty, in the future with opportunities. So let's go into this next one where Jack talks about building a second blockchain.
All right, clip number
Around
3.
that, one of the applications for the second blockchain we're building is very much, as you suggest, premised on digital identification and delegation of signing authority. And so we think that there are a lot of advancements that will take place in the industry using blockchain technology for identity management and authentication. And so we very much prioritize this notion of being able to validate and verify that I am who I say I am, and doing that through a number of different applications, and then storing in an immutable and auditable way that information on our chain is one of the core applications of our private chain within the custody business.
Well, so he's talking there, identity verification and auditability on, their Polynet blockchain where they're going to memorialize these transactions. But Mickey, what do you take from that? Go.
Yes, so that's exciting right there. I mean, that they're building a second blockchain here. So we know that they were doing something revolutionary for their custody platform that was built on a private blockchain. And now we see there's a settlement identification blockchain too. So it's the first time we've ever heard of them saying, we're not just building one blockchain, we're building two now. So pretty powerful stuff what's going on over there. And I don't want to speculate too much on this. We'll cover it more in the future once we get more details. But, I don't know if you have anything to add there, but we see now too, Patty. Exciting.
Absolutely. Well, let's take it to our last clip.
And now this one affects retail.
To that point, we've been seeking out partners for proof of concepts to assist us with the development of our settlement layer. We have several POCs going on right now. One in your backyard there in the UK with a very large global asset manager who believes that the future for their business is going to be developing more products for, as they refer to them, the man and woman on the street who are looking to get access to alternatives, but don't have the legacy appetite from a capital allocation standpoint and from a investment duration to be able to invest in traditional institutional products. And so together with them, we are helping them build a digital retail feeder fund into an open-ended institutional real estate fund. And the idea is that ultimately retail investors could buy a tokenized interest in this fund. This token would trade on an exchange, so the end investor could get liquidity and greater transparency into what they're owning rather than tying up their money, even if they could afford the hurdle, tying up their money for 10 years. And we think that's a real harbinger of things to come. We're working with a top 5 global bank who does a lot of the asset servicing for them. We're the platform essentially that is a messaging layer between the issuer of the asset, the transfer agent, the fiat custodian. We're going to be the security token custodian. We have an exchange listed in the UK, the first listed exchange for digital asset trading, who is going to trade the token. And so that's one example where we're building out this sort of ecosystem. We also have several VC funds that we're talking to here in the US interested in doing a POC around a fractional interest in a sleeve of a fund that they have created. And once again, similarly, creating greater access to liquidity and transparency for smaller investors to be able to participate in this type of alternative asset class.
Well, I think that says a lot, Mickey, that, while we may not see Polysign's name directly on some of these products they're creating, they are certainly helping, what they call a top 5 global bank, a major asset manager, and they're building feeder funds for retail, fractionalizing these tokenized assets and allowing, smaller investors to get in. So, it's not just about what they can do for institutions and businesses, just on their back end. It's what can they help them create for their customers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this goes to show that, Polysign might not be directly facing with the retail, but they're building the infrastructure and the private blockchains to allow these global banks, investment banks, prime brokerages, and custodians to interface with actually retail, and you'll be able to participate. And then this sounds a lot like, he doesn't say it in there, but I'm going to speculate, because I think this sounds a lot like what Securitize was saying when they said, hey, we're going to have a Robinhood-like app for security tokens or tokenized real estate, tokenized funds, private equity. Polysign's going in that direction. And he said at other parts of this video where digital asset space might grow bigger than crypto in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that there's going to be other types of tokenization. So digital assets mean different types of tokens. So we're talking NFTs, we're talking tokenized real estate, tokenized funds, and tokenized equity. Now, those are going to come along, and they're going to get big. It's just taking time. And now I think I see DeFi moving the fastest here, because DeFi is not limited by the regulators. It's just going to it's a tsunami of innovation, and nothing is stopping it. And nothing is going to stop it. So he even says that, the sand under us is changing often. And we'll post a link in the description below of this full video. It's like 43 minutes. It's one of the better interviews, I think, because the interviewer really asks some great questions. And it shows they're doing multiple proof of concepts. They're going to do a proof of concept with a VC fund in the US. So exciting. And what it means for us is it shows in the future, there's going to be even more investable opportunities for us outside of just crypto and outside of just sitting here waiting for Moon for XRP. We have DeFi coming. Patty and I did a video yesterday. I'm talking about how to running your own nodes. It's another way to earn passive income. So I do want to wrap this up with the announcement that Flare team has expanded to 21 members now. And that is exciting that they're expanding their team. So now they're in 2 locations, I believe, UK and Europe. And we will be interviewing Hugo in the next couple weeks before the Songbird launch. So look out for that. We don't have an actual date yet, but we will be interviewing him, and that is confirmed. So that's exciting, Patty.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that. So that'll be a fun time. And yeah, if you guys go to flare.xyz, they have a tab for their team. You can kind of go read bios on a lot of these people, but the team is a lot bigger than I think all of us imagined. So that's really
Yeah,
exciting. They have a bunch of Solidity engineers on the team, and a lot of people that Hugo said have math PhDs, so like high aptitude in that regard in designing these systems.
absolutely. And now remember, they've been building this and researching this for 3-4 years. This isn't just a solution that was spun up last year out of nowhere. So these things are in the works for years, just like the Evernodes project, IXRPL, been in development for years. So when you see the projects that have been in development for years and have a lot behind them and have really talented, skilled, high-level people building them, that's the projects to look out for, because really good talent is very hard to find. And the banks can't get these really good engineers. They're just not going to work for them. And that's what I keep hearing in a lot of these podcasts, and even Jack said it. The banks just can't attract that capital. The traditional markets aren't going to be able to just build their own solutions because they just don't have the talent to do it. And there's a lack of that at the moment. And they're going to go to the startups. They're going to go to the forward-thinking companies. So how can the traditional markets really compete here, Patty, if they can't get that? They have to license it or acquire it.
Yeah, so I mean, McDonald said in that interview that over the next 3 to 5 years, he expects to see a huge M&A boom, which is mergers and acquisitions among some of the larger financial players like across the world. And I have friends that do some like tech stuff, maybe not necessarily in crypto, but I do hear in general like there's a lot of need for developers, programmers, people like that, and just not enough of them to kind of suffice. So I think that's
Exactly.
showing in crypto and in any other kind of tech enabled market.
All right, excellent. I think I'm going to wrap it up on that, Patty. And yeah, it just goes to show it's not about just traditional markets moving. It's like, well, how are they going to move if they can't get this talent? Why are these engineers coming out of college and computer programmers, scientists, photographers going to go to some old traditional bank? No, they're going to go to the new startup where they could get equity and they could get other benefits. So, that's something we don't talk about often. It's like how the traditional banks and traditional entities going to evolve. Well, how do you attract the human capital for that? And that's one thing, Flare's been able to do, because they're forward thinking and they're researching and they excite their employees to be able to build new things. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're envisioning the future here.
Cool. Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up. Apologies to the people in the live stream earlier. I'll work on trying to figure that out. But hope you guys enjoyed the recorded video instead. This is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP.
And I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
And we are out. See you guys.